Okay, everybody, welcome to TBLOA Session 5 of 2026. We're going to get started, try and get everybody out of here on time. Just a few things to go over tonight. We'll be doing our annual presentation on game management. We'll cover some advanced situations. As usual, the rogues gallery that is your TBLOA training committee. Feel free to bother us with questions during the week. As your games begin, you have some odd situations that popped up and you aren't sure if you quite got them right. Feel free to give us a ring, let us know. We can go through it with you and go through your thought process, and we'll go through it and make sure that everybody knows how to handle those situations going forward. All right, so we're going to jump right in. Game management. What is game management? Well, it's more the art of officiating versus the science of officiating, right? It's different techniques that help your game run smoothly. They keep the game flowing, everybody's communicating correctly, and is some preventive officiating. Right? One of the best tools that we have to help us manage a game is a good, strong pregame meeting led by the R. Okay. I won't attempt to outdo the USAL presentations on pregame. They're really very good. But I will strongly recommend that each of you, especially those of you who aspire to be crew chiefs, review the USAL course on the pregame meeting. It's very well done, and it'll help you both understand how to properly attend and later lead a pregame. Okay, make sure that we're walking onto the field 30 minutes before game time. Check the field together as a crew. Is the center line all the way through? Do we have cones on all four corners? Is there a cone at the midline? Are there now 4 cones at the box instead of 2, right? Because we have to have 2 for the edges of the substitution area and 2 at the corners of the team area. They're now required by rule, right? We've done it for the last couple of years, but now it's required by rule. So we need to have 4 cones at the box plus 5 around the field. Remember that if you want to use if the school wants to use pylons for the corners of the field and the midfield stripe, that's fine. But at the box, they're supposed to use cones or soft pylons, not the hard, inflexible pylons that some of the football programs have. They're not safe with guys running past them all the time. Lacrosse players don't have leg pads the way football players do. Okay. Let's make sure that after you've certified coaches, you get the captains. You do your coin toss, ask the captains to send you their face-off guys. You remember we covered the coin toss when we did the Rule 4 review back in session 3. Well, let's talk about pregame responsibilities and specifically certifying coaches. Okay. Coach, are all your players legally equipped by rule? Easy question. And we must get a yes. Not a they better be, I hope so. I think we need a yes, or the game may not proceed. A few years ago, a home team coach said, no, we don't have enough legal chest protectors for everybody. We didn't play the game, right? We have to have a yes. Next, coach, who are your captains today, please? Write them on your scorecard. Who's going to be your in-home? Starting attackman listed first in the book. Because sometimes you'll have a coach that doesn't know what an in-home is. And rather than make him look dumb, just say it. Who'll be your in-home today? Starting attackman listed first in the book. And if it's a coach that's never coached before, which happens a lot, where schools draft a teacher to be the head coach, and his assistants coach the team, but we're talking to the head coach, he may not know all our nomenclature. Get the in-home. Get it written down. Coach, we're going to be doing anything pregame? Anthem, introductions, what will we be doing? Okay. Next, we'd like your assistance in emphasizing sportsmanship today. We'll enforce all sportsmanship rules for players, coaches, and spectators. As such, we have a zero tolerance policy for foul language. The Hillsborough County Athletic Department has asked us to eject players for foul language, and I've said no. We're going to just do what the rule book says. But we are going to stop foul language on the field. Profanity by rule is unsportsmanlike conduct. If you want to downgrade it to a conduct foul, I'm fine with that. But we need to enforce it. I tell players all the time, pretend you're in church, this one's mine. If you wouldn't say it to your clergyman, don't say it out here. That they seem to understand. All right, then remind the coaches about the coach's box. Right, the coaching area extends from the substitution, right, from the substitution box to 5 yards inside the restraining line. right? So from here to here, no players are permitted in the coaches area. They're restricted to the team area that's behind that dotted line here on the diagram. Make sure that players stay out of the substitution area unless they're about to sub in the game. Coaches are going to start rolling their eyes because they know this, but they know we're really bad at enforcing it. But one of the points of emphasis this year is sportsmanship and the role of coaches. This is important. Then you're going to ask the home coach, okay, coach, the game clock is counting down. Is that to 5 minutes before game time or game time? You should know the answer to this already because you have a watch. But confirming that with the coach, oh, yeah, they're supposed to count it down to 5 minutes before. I don't know why they screwed that up. All right, whatever it is, just go over it. And then, okay, we'll get your captains at whatever time you decide. But you're going to tell the home coach, I'm going to get captains at this time. You'll tell the visiting coach the same thing. This way they can use the countdown on the game clock as a point of reference. We'll get your face-off guys after that. Do you have any questions for us? Any questions about new rules for 2026? Right, there aren't that many, but there are some big ones. No 5-second count on the goalie anymore. Losing your lid becoming a technical foul. It's not always a time-serving foul, but it's a technical. So just had a rules meeting with 30-some coaches, but we service over 60 schools. Clearly, they didn't all come. So they may have questions. They may, oh, what are the rule changes this year? And crew chiefs, you need to be able to articulate those. Okay, so expect that. Try and spend the same amount of time with the visiting coach that you spent with the home team coach, recognizing that you had a couple extra questions to ask the home team coach about pregame stuff. No big deal, but try to spend roughly the same amount of time. If you see that you're spending more time with the visiting coach, you're gonna have to disengage because the home team coach can be like, what are you talking to him for so long for? Why does he get more time than I get? Right, so just try and be consistent. When it's time for the captain's meeting, umpire should be getting the home team captains. Field judge should be getting the visiting team captains. Right? Umpire, you should be looking for white shirts. Pretty easy. Right? Umpire brings out the home team captains. The home team faces the table. Field judge brings out the visitors. They face away from the table. I can't tell you where the spectators are going to be. Every school does it a little differently. But home team captains face the table. Ask the captains to introduce themselves. Let's talk about any ground rules that we have because the field's in a wacky condition. We got a cone sitting in a hole somewhere, or there's a grate right out of bounds and we have to put a mat over it. Right? Let's make sure that the captains know about those types of silly situations. Okay. And then referee's going to take out a coin, show each captain the sides of the coin. If you use heads and tails, great. I like to use ref or tree or logo or sticks, whatever, depending on the coin I'm using. I just tend not to use heads or tails just because it makes them think something a little different. Craig Smith used to bring out an Eisenhower dollar and ask them who Eisenhower was. Right, all good things, but make sure you show both speaking captains the coin. Explain that you're going to flip the coin into the air and catch it without turning it over after if it's caught. Right? If the coin is dropped, we're going to flip it again. We don't flip the coin and have it hit the ground. That's a football thing, but in lacrosse, we catch the coin. Okay. Ask the visiting captain to select whichever of the choices you've given him, whether it's logo and sticks, ref and tree, heads or tails. Umpire, it is your job to repeat the call. Okay. Flip the coin. Now, the winner of the coin toss gets the choice of goal to defend or first alternate possession. If the sun or the wind is not a factor, most teams choose alternate possession. And then the other team gets to choose goal to defend. Right? Whichever one the winner takes, the other one gets to choose. Right? Make sure that you then have the teams put their backs to the goals that they're going to defend. Referee is going to indicate to the crowd by tapping on the shoulder of the team who's got first alternate possession. and indicate which way we're going first and third. They'll be going first and third period. The R's then going to tell the captains to go back to their benches. All right, tell their teams to be ready when the game starts. When they take the field, to make sure they line up based on how they just did, with the goalkeeper's left shoulder facing the goal they're going to defend. Right, defense next to them, middies, then attack. If you're going to meet with the Fogos, tell the captains to send their Fogos right now. So you can meet with the face-off guys somewhere at the midfield, not necessarily on the dot. You can meet on the dot, but generally you don't have to. But the idea is you want to discuss the face-off process you're going to use. Very simple. We're going to put the ball down, go through it. We're going to put the ball down. We're going to say down. I want you to go down together. We want you to line up top to stop. We might adjust you in the first quarter, but we're going to stop adjusting you in the second quarter. We're going to call a delay of game penalty and just give it to your opponent. Right? Make sure that they understand that you're going to say set, you're going to pause, and then blow the whistle. It's not going to be so whistle. Sometimes it'll be set, whistle. Sometimes it'll be set, whistle. And sometimes it'll be set, whistle. You want to make sure that you keep varying your cadence. All three of you have three different cadences, but three different variations, such that they can't time anybody. Right? We want them to listen for the whistle, not guess. If they do that, we avoid face-off violations. Everybody looks good. Right? If they have questions, now's the time to answer them, making sure they have a contrasting color at the top of the shaft. It doesn't have to be 6 inches of tape like it does in college. It can be paint. It can be the natural color of the shaft. But let's make sure the face-off guys have legal face-off sticks. They don't have tape on the throat, things like that. Okay. Once you're done with the face-off, then umpires and field judges go check the nets, but stay out of anybody's shooting drill, right? If they're still doing a shooting drill, ask the coaching staff if there's when can I check the net? Right? Checking the net should probably take 15 or 30 seconds. If there are any problems, holes in the net, it's not tied up well, tell the R will tell the home team coach. It's their responsibility to fix it. It doesn't mean you can't assist, but it's the home team's responsibility to fix it. While you guys are checking the nets, most Rs like to do this themselves, talk to this timer and the scorer. Usually the timer's in the press box and you don't get to talk to the timer. But talking to the official scorer is important. I like to give them the same card I give to the head coaches with the crew's name on it so that everybody knows who we are and can address us. I just got a message that there's nothing on the screen. Can everybody see? Everybody seeing the screen? Steve? Did I lose you? Okay. I'm just going to assume that we're still good. So talk to your scorers, make sure they have a scorebook, that they're keeping track of goal counts for both teams, penalties for both teams. They have the visiting team's roster. Right? If there's a problem and you need to determine what player you ejected, you got to be able to get their screen. All right. Try this one more time. I'm hearing that we're still having problems seeing the screen. Okay, back to the table conversation. Does the scoreboard have a horn that works when it goes to 0? Is there a 2-second delay after it goes to 0? We've had a couple of schools with those. Now that a horn is once again required to be at the table, do they have a horn at the table? discussed that they're not to use any clock but the game clock for penalty time. They shouldn't have separate penalty timers for penalties. When they write down a penalty, right over here in the penalty section, right? Player's number, how much penalty time, what the infraction was, and the time of the foul. If you subtract the penalty time from the time of the foul, you know when the penalty is released. They use the game clock for penalty releases. Shouldn't be using any other clocks at the table. But make sure that they understand that releasing a penalty, right? We can release a penalty because there's been a goal scored on a releasable foul. The penalty time has expired, but remind them that if there's a face-off going on, they can't release until possession, right? We want to make sure that they understand that. If it happens during the game where you're at the end of a penalty, but the offending team has just scored, we want to make sure that they understand that they can't release it. Steve, did I just hear that we're still having a problem seeing it with on the screen?
Yeah, the screen format changed, but it's still black. If someone else, and put in the chat if you can have the screen or not, because maybe it's just me.
I can see it. Okay, thank you, Xavier. All right, so let's move on. Steve, it sounds like it is just you.
It's just me. Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
So once we're ready to begin the game, we're going to do our lineup prior to the game. So normally we're not going to have teams with two discrete colors, right? One's going to be white, one's going to be not white. But for this purpose, I didn't want you to think that the team in white was always lining up on one side. Whichever team is defending the right half of our screen is going to be facing the table. Whichever team is defending the left half of the screen is going to be facing away from the table, right? Goalie with their left shoulder to the goal they're going to defend. At this point, both the F and the U should check to make sure that the in-homes are present. If you know that the in-homes are present, tell your R. In-homes are present. Let them know, right? The referee is going to give their final charge to the starters. Every R does this a little bit differently. As you are a U and an FJ, you'll listen to the different spiels that each of us give. Is when we're the crew chief, you'll take pieces from each you like best. When you're a crew chief, you'll put together your own. And we tell the players to, we tell the goalies to cross. They touch gloves and run to their goals. The teams shake hands and they go to their starting spots. We also have to go to our starting spots. So the referee is going to be the first single and conduct the first faceoff. The U is going to become the lead left and the helper on the faceoff. And the field judge is going to become the wing official on the right. It looks like this. Right, wing official, put your hand up. You're responsible for setting the field. Making sure we got the right number of people in the right number of places. When the field is set, you can either point towards your goal or point towards your partner or verbalize or both. Say, field is set. Now, it's time for the opening face-off, and we've covered face-offs in other sessions, so we're not going to beat that up here. But we are going to move on to other parts of game management. Equipment checks. Right? We are required to do a minimum of two checks per game. The rule says one per half. A lot of crew chiefs like to get two done in the first half and not do one in the second half. I will suggest that if you have a running time game in the second half, that doing an equipment check after a goal burns about 45 seconds while the clock is running. And the team that's getting shellacked gets shellacked a little less badly because there's 45 seconds where they're not actually playing. It does say a dead ball. It doesn't say the clock has to be stopped for you to conduct that equipment check. Mechanically, when we have a dead ball and the crew chief signals for an equipment check, usually by tapping their fists together like this, single, your responsibility is to get the ball. Lead and trail, you are responsible for identifying a player and conducting the equipment check on that player and getting their stick. The easiest way to do that is, hey, number 31, don't touch the head of your stick. Come here and hand me your cross. Let's start with don't touch the head of your stick. That prevents them from pulling strings or punching out of habit, right? Verbalize, don't touch the head of your stick. If 31, however, does adjust his stringing or punches his fist into the head, right? It's a flag down for a 1 minute non-releasable unsportsmanlike conduct foul before the equipment check even begins. If it just happened to be the goal scorer, then goal's also taken off the board. Okay. To conduct the equipment check, you must verify that the player's equipment is being worn properly, right? Do they have the tooth and mouth protector, mouth guard? They have it. They may have taken it out once the whistle blew. As long as they have it and it's not in a pocket, right? If it's in their hand, it's in their hat, even if it's in a pocket, if they have one during a dead ball, they have it, right? You don't expect them to be wearing it once the whistle blows and they're running to their bench. But they have to have shoulder pads. We're talking about a field player. They've got to have arm pads and they've got to be worn on their elbow. They have to have gloves without the palms or the fingers cut out, right? Their helmet. They've got cleats. Yeah. They aren't metal tipped. You just have to check for metal tips. Everything else is pretty much fine. If they don't care how long they are anymore, they just can't be metal tipped, right? They eased up on the cleat requirements a little while back. Everything in this list is required. If they're missing something in this list, we're going to have a foul. With the exception of the tooth and mouth protector, which is a technical, all the others are 1 minute NRs for illegal equipment before the stick check. If their stick is found to be illegal, the stick penalty will supersede the illegal equipment, and we're only going to penalize them once for the 2 minute stick foul. But don't throw your flag. That privilege belongs to the R, but you will note that they didn't have something. They're not allowed to come back into the game until they have it, and they're going to be penalized for it. You should check eye black here too. If somebody has illegal eye black, you tell them they have to take it off before they can return to the game. They get to fix it for that one, right? Because it's a dead ball. We're going to let them fix it. This is a game management thing. If we see it on the field, technically it's a 1 minute NR for illegal equipment. This dead ball period, we have an opportunity to fix it. Let's fix it. Okay. Then the three of you are going to get together to do the stick check portion of the equipment check. Single's going to give the ball to the R. You and the field judge are going to hold sticks facing the benches. Right? We want to have two sets of eyes on the benches. While one of you does the rollout testing, right? The R is going to do the stick measurements. If any stick is illegal, R is the one who throws the flag. Just like if anybody had illegal equipment, you'll tell the R will flag it and report the foul. Don't rush. Make sure you know what number you got, right? When you go get a stick, if it's 31, you need to know it's 31. If it's 6, you need to know it's 6. Right? If we have a foul, they've got to penalize the right kid. Don't do it at the sidelines. I don't even like doing it at the wing line. I like doing it halfway between the wing line and the dot to get further away from the teams. Right? Don't throw the sticks when you put them back. Be gentle, place them down. Whether if the stick has a foul, it doesn't have to stay at the table. You can give him the stick back. He has the opportunity to fix it. There are some things that can't be fixed. Most can. If the stick is too short, it's going to need a new shaft. There's not much you can do about that. But hand him a stick back. When he asks what's illegal, you verbalize it. You don't show, you don't go, see, the ball doesn't come out, because if it comes out then, you're going to have a hard time. Just say the ball didn't come out during the rollout test. That's it. Now, what are we actually testing, right? We're checking the pocket depth, that we can't see the top of the ball below the bottom of the sidewall. Ball's got to roll out top, sides, and bottom of the head. The head must be at least 10 inches long. R is going to do that measurement. Head must be at least 6 inches wide. R is going to do that measurement. Shooting strings all have to be within 4 inches of the top of the head. And remember, stick lengths can vary by age, right? In high school, short sticks are 40 to 42 inches. Long sticks are 52 to 72 inches. The goalkeeper's cross can be 40 to 72 inches. 12U and 14U follow the high school rule. At 10U, short crosses can be as short as 37 inches. If you're playing a full field U10, that can use long crosses, they're 47 to 54. Right? Goalkeeper can be 37 to 54 at 10U. At 8U, the short and the goalkeeper's crosses are the same, but they're not allowed to have long sticks. One of the things you can do to speed yourself up when you're measuring sticks is to actually mark all these numbers on your tape measure. Use one color for the high school measurements: 40, 42, 52, 72, 6, 10, 4. You mark those in black. And then mark 37, 47, 54 in blue, because you need those for 10U and 8U. And if they're in different colors, you just have to look for the lines. You don't have to try and read the numbers, especially if you get an oddly lit field that either puts glare on your tape or makes it too hard to read the numbers. The lines will be helpful. Remember, if we have strings that are hanging longer than 2 inches, that's a fix-it ticket, right? Hanging off the side more than 2 inches, hey, you need to trim the strings. I mean, the stick that he's holding up here has very long strings over here, over, right? This one's too long. This one's too long. They need to cut those before they can bring that stick back into the game. If they don't have a manufactured end cap on their stick, it has to be an end cap that has been manufactured for lacrosse. So it's either a rubber end cap that fits over the stick. It can be a plug that fits inside the hollow shaft. It may not be a bottle cap. If you're checking a face-off stick, we talked about this when we were talking about Fogos, make sure they don't have tape touching the throat. It is legal for all play except face-offs in high school. You can have tape on the throat, just not face off with it. Right? If they have a tape ring to try and give themselves leverage, or a knob, right? It can't be more than 3 inches from the butt end. And anything that they add for grip can't make the circumference more than 3.5 inches. It's going to be hard to measure circumference, but it'll just look weird. You'll know. Okay. The shaft of the cross has to be relatively straight, right? If the stick is bent, it's not legal, and the shaft has to be replaced. Because trying to straighten those things out, probably just snap them anyway. It's not like they're wood anymore. You can't just get it wet and bend it back. Rule 17 specifies that a stick that is bent is not legal and must be removed from the game and either fixed or replaced. All right, moving on. A stick check that finds an illegal cross may disallow a goal if it was the goal scorer's stick. Only the goal scorer's illegal cross can wipe out a goal, unless the goal scorer also touched the head and that stick was fine. But we talked about that earlier, right? So if the goal scorer has a deep pocket, right, altered stick, or he adjusted it prior to or during the request for inspection, that will wipe out the goal, even if the guy kicked it in. Right? Other equipment violations found during that equipment check will not wipe out a goal. Right? Then remember, we do have some weird situations here. There's a flag down, slow whistle for a push on the defense. A1 scores. Right? Goal's good, wave the flag. D calls a timeout. And because it's a timeout, we do a stick check. And without thinking about it, either lead or trail grab the goal scorer's stick. Well, we find out that A1's stick is illegal. Well, we haven't had a face-off yet, so that's going to wipe out the goal. And A1's going to get a 2-minute non-releasable foul for having an illegal stick. But because there's no goal, B's push gets reinstated, and he's got to go serve 30 seconds. Now, despite the fact that these are not simultaneous fouls, right? One's live ball, one's dead ball. We are adjudicating them at the same time. So B1's the guy who pushed. His 30 seconds is going to be non-releasable pursuant to Rule 721D, right? We're adjudicating fouls at the same time. The minimum common time is going to be non-releasable. In this case, it's the 30 seconds, even though all of A1's 2 minutes is NR. Well, all of B1's 30 seconds is going to be NR too. So let's remember that. We can actually have a foul that was waived get reinstated because of an illegal cross. When we report an illegal cross, R's, you're going to chuck your flag high in the air. You're going to report the penalty with C note. Remember, you're just going to hold up the cross and point to it. The stick is illegal. Do not demonstrate. You can, the coaches, I guarantee you, are going to start yelling, "What's illegal? What?" And you say, it's either deep pocket, ball didn't roll out, whatever it is. It's too long, too short, whatever it is. Just tell them. Show me. No, coach, I can't do that. Not allowed to do that. Once had that happen in a game where a coach started yelling, "Oh, you're making it up." And why would we make something like that up, coach? Right, we're not going to do that. If we have penalties by both teams, whether it's equipment or both have sticks, those are simultaneous fouls. They're considered dead ball without sequence. Right, so we're going to go simultaneous. If one has a stick penalty and the other has a 1-minute equipment foul, right, then we are going to award the ball to the team that has less penalty time. And because they're dead ball fouls, we're going to award the ball at center. Right. I don't see any questions in the chat about stick checks, so we're going to move on.
Dave, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Shoot. Yep.
You have two sticks, dead ball, and they're both illegal. Both going to get 2 minutes. How do you work? Who gets the ball?
That's a great question. So when the penalty times are equal, we have to figure out what's coming up next. If face-off was pending, we're going to face off. Right? If the penalty times are otherwise equal, then the team that had possession is going to keep it. We're going to leave it right where it's. We're going to go with it right where it is.
All right. So we have a face. We have 1 man. So 9-on-9 with face.
Right. If there was a face-off pending, we would face off. If it was just a timeout, it's going to stay right where it was. I said awarding it at center, but I was assuming face-off. Thank you for correcting me. Right, we're going to leave it right where it lay.
Well, dead
ball. It's
dead ball. Simultaneous is dead ball, dead center, right?
That's if it's live ball, dead ball. Live ball, leave it. Live ball, dead center.
Right. Okay.
Right. Unless you're right, we're talking about simultaneous dead balls, right? Where we don't have sequence. Right. So we're going to, now, if, and that's for penalties of equal duration. So.
Right. Got it.
Otherwise, we would be awarding it to the team that has less penalty time. Right.
Right. Got it.
Right. So we covered communicating with partners in previous sessions, right? Verbal and nonverbal by signaling. Today, let's talk a little bit about communicating with players and coaches. Okay. How you communicate with each of these constituencies is going to go a long way to determining how they communicate with you. So let's start with players, right? Avoid addressing players by anything that could be perceived as pejorative, right? So don't call them son, call them kid, call them bud. Don't do that. I call everybody on the field sir. So I would say, "Here's the ball, sir." I'm talking to the goalie, I'll say keep or keeper, or call them by their number. I say sir because I try to model the respect I want them to demonstrate. I think that helps. You got to do what works for you. but you know, be respectful with players if you want them to be respectful with you. Similarly, you can create allies on the field by using the captains, right? They can be your best friend dealing with problem players. Mike Doyle is fond of saying during his pregame, you know who your knuckleheads are. I don't want to know who your knuckleheads are, right? Have them take care of things, right? You see somebody starting to lose it a little bit, go to the captain and say, hey, 12's getting a little edgy there. Can you try and pull him back from the ledge, right? Because if I have to do it, I have to do it with my flag and my whistle. And they don't want their team penalized. So this is an opportunity to use preventive officiating. And again, captains are leaders for a reason. Give them the opportunity to lead sometimes can make things go a lot more smoothly. Steve, anything you want to add there?
No, just talk to him. Yeah, just like what Dave said, just treat him with respect. Don't speak down to him. It goes a long way.
Cool. All right, let's move on to coaches. Okay, how we communicate with coaches. All right, we talked about it a little bit before. We wanted to spend the same amount of time with coaches during the pregame. We want to treat coaches the same way. Calling them coach is always preferable to using their first name, even if you know it. It just sets a little bit of distance, right? We're not that familiar. I'm treating you with your professional title, right? We want to treat each other as professionals, not as buds, right? We want to be professional. Usually when a coach is speaking to you, he's asking for information, or sometimes they're just venting, okay? Do be aware of carryover comments. In the last game, this, how would you rule on this? Coach, I don't have a game film to look at. And so I'm only getting your perspective from your angle. I really would need to see it see the whole thing develop, right? You'll get, nobody's called that all year. Last time we had you didn't call that. And the best answer is, I can't speak about previous games. This is what's happening today, right? We need to make sure that we answer questions, right? If you get a question in a respectful way, even if it might be high intensity, but if it was a respectful question, it needs a respectful answer. Okay. If somebody is just making comments, Bob Pradella is fond of saying the it says and that says. It's a hold, that's a push. He's commenting, right? He's venting a little bit. You don't have to respond to comments, right? Statements don't require responses. Questions require answers, right? At some point, if the coach is just losing his mind, you have to back him up. You got to get him calmed down somehow, but saying calm down never works, right? If you're having a conversation with a coach and he's still going on about it after 15, 20 seconds, and you've explained your point and he just wants to disagree, coach, it's my job to inform you, not convince you. I don't expect to convince you. But if you can convince him and inform him, you'll be doing a much better job of communicating. But we can't necessarily convince the coach that his perspective is correct, or is incorrect, rather. He saw it from his angle, you saw it from your angle. It is what it is. When you're talking to the coach, you have to face the field, right? Especially if it's during a live ball, you can't take your eyes off the field, right? Stay calm. Maintain an even tone. You can't get agitated with the coach. The most agitated you could be is with a firm hand. Coach, that's enough. But don't yell at coaches. Don't do it. Be brief. Stick to the facts. Pretend you're Joe Friday and just the facts, man. Right? Live ball comments from you to the coach should be short and to the point. Did the coach ask a question? Or was it just a comment that doesn't require a response, right? So we talked about that a little bit. There's a big difference between that's an awful call and you're an awful official, right? The first one is just venting. Doesn't like the call. That's like, he doesn't have to like it. He's got to live with it. In all of my years officiating, I've seen a coach's complaint change an official's call maybe 3 or 4 times. It doesn't work. It doesn't help, especially if you engage. If he's just venting, let it go. You can ignore it. But the difference between that's an awful call and that's an awful official, you can ignore that's an awful call. It's a disagreement. Great. But you're an awful official is maligning, and that can't be tolerated. You have to address that. Right? Use the ramp. Take the ball away from his team. If you have to call a conduct foul on the bench and put his in-home in for 30 seconds, so be it. Coaches have to know that that type of comment, you're an awful official, will not be tolerated. If you hear an official say that and direct it to your partner, it looks better if you throw the flag than if your partner does, because it's not personal now. Right? It's not your partner overreacting to being told he was awful. It's you throwing the flag and saying, Coach, you've crossed the line. Right? Lastly, after a comment from a coach that was a terrible call, don't be sarcastic and say, no, it was a terrible play. Right? Sarcasm belies professionalism. If the coach says, how could you not call a foul there? Well, the simple answer, well, coach, your kid ran through two guys. What did he think was going to happen? He was going to lose the ball. It wasn't a foul. He tried to run through two guys. Elevator doors closing. Right, as I would, Atlanta Metro. Anyway, do not have to get much longer than that. Coach, you want to try and give him a quick answer and move on, get back to your position, and move on to the next play. Right, but be respectful. Right, it's easy to say, I don't know. What did your partner call? I didn't see the signal, and I didn't see the play. I didn't have a great look at it. It was on the far side of the field. I'm going to ask him next time I see it. When we have the next dead ball, I'll ask him to come explain it. Right. So if you tell the coach you're going to get him an answer, get him an answer. But it's okay to say, I didn't see the call because I was looking somewhere else. Right. It's okay to say, if it was in your area and he's complaining, well, hey, I didn't see it that way, coach. I might have missed it. It's okay to say that. Don't make something up. Lying blows your credibility, right? If there was a collision and he's screaming for a foul and you got screened, tell him, Coach, there were three players between me and the collision, and I didn't see it. They're not going to like it, but you can't call what you don't see. Right? Coaches crowding the sideline on a sideline play, and they're jumping up and down. It should have been the other. Oh, Coach, I couldn't see through you. They'll get the point. Sometimes they don't. I said this before. It's my job to inform you, not convince you. But sometimes coaches just want to go. And coach, that's enough. Coach, if this continues, it's going to hurt your team, right? Our toolbox also includes conduct fouls and unsportsmanlike conduct fouls. Finally, we hope it doesn't happen often, right? The coach will lose the privilege of having an open line of communication. At some point, it's like, it's not being productive. Coach, I can't speak to you anymore. You can talk to one of my partners, but you and I aren't communicating well today, and I don't want this to become a problem for you. It's just not helping the game. If that happens, consider rotating to single. Right? You have a dead ball, switch. Rotate to single for a while. Get away from that coach. Did a game a couple of years ago where I spent the entire fourth quarter at single just so I wouldn't end up throwing a second flag on the coach because I knew it was going to happen. I knew he had gotten under my skin. I'd gotten under his skin, and he was going to say something that was going to require me to throw another flag, and I didn't want to do it. So this is you protecting the coach and protecting yourself and putting yourself and everybody in a better position. Rotate, talk to your partners, rotate over to single. Get yourself away from the coach that's giving you a hard time. Good, Steve.
Dave, can I just jump in there a second?
Absolutely.
If you're the senior guy and you've been around and you see you got a younger guy bench side and you have to pay attention. If you're the coach riding them, giving them a hard time, go swap it out. You can manage the coach better than a young newer official. So you gotta protect crew. So take care of your crew. If you see that happening, you got to jump on the bench side and relieve that guy that taking the crap from the coach, and you manage it.
Good call, Steve. All right, let's move on to some advanced situations. All right, Steve just said it, and we need to protect our crew, right? Never throw your partner under the bus. None of us want to be under there, even if we are, fleet mechanics. When your partner makes a call on the far side and the coach doesn't like, coach, he's right there. Even if you disagree with it, coach, he's right there. It's really hard to say from here. I didn't have a great angle, coach, but I'll ask him what he saw. Right? Those responses de-escalate and don't put you in the position of trying to be pitted against your partner. Coaches will do that all the time. They will try and divide the crew. Don't let them. And again, if you promise to get a coach an answer, make sure you follow up, right? That builds trust. Building trust is the kind of rapport we want with coaches. You want coaches to see you walk on the field and go, oh, that guy's got integrity. Right? That's going to go way beyond today's game. Right, let's move on to things we hope never happen, but always seem to. Fights. What do we do when we have a fight? Right, so here we are in a settled situation down at the right-hand edge of and we got a player in gray and a player in gold, and they're the two that get involved, right? Remember, we do our best to try and stop this stuff, but we can only do so much. In general, we talk about preventive officiating, but most of officiating is reactive, right? So these players start fighting, pushing, shoving, throwing punches, whatever it is, lead and single, blowing your whistles, screaming. 22 blue, 4 gold, knock it off. Tweet, 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 tweet. Again, 22 blue, 4 gold, tweet, tweet, tweet. Saying the numbers, gets their attention sometimes, but at least solidifies in your mind what two players were at fault. Right? Trail. Get to the benches. Scream freeze. Put your hands up. Both hands up. Everybody freeze. Don't let a coach come off the bench. Tell him to control his bench. Anyone who gets past you by rule must be ejected. Be sure of numbers. Right? If it's an assistant coach that gets past you, so be it. He's got to go too. Nobody is allowed to leave the bench area during an altercation. It's an automatic ejection. If we have a fight and we have ejections, right? Throwing a punch, whether it lands or not, is an automatic ejection. Doesn't actually have to be a punch. It can be a head slap, right? It's striking an opponent doesn't necessarily have to be a punch. When the game is over, the crew chief has to contact the assigner and contact me and let me know that there was an ejection and that you are going to be writing a report and that you will send me a copy of it before you submit it so that I can proof it, provide any edits that are necessary. Okay? You must have every number of every player involved in the altercation, every number and name of player who leaves the bench. Anybody you eject, got to have all of it. The state changed their reporting forms last year. It no longer says AT6UC. It just calls it an ejection report. You go to the Arbiter Central Hub. You click on ejection report. It asks you a second time. You click on ejection report and you get the form. Before you get there, in post-game, having written down everybody's numbers on your card, because you have to report all these fouls anyway, so having them written down on the card helps. But do your post-game with your partners and make sure we all agree on the numbers and we all agree on the narrative. Get home, type up the narrative, circulate it to your partners. This all has to happen that night before you knock off for the night. All has to happen that night. Everybody's got to provide their edits back to you. Then you send the narrative to me and to Sal. Or if it's a youth game, to me and to Tom. Like I said, we'll provide necessary edits, including adding rule references if you don't have them. Ideally, you will cite the rule number under which you ejected the player. Once we say okay, then you're going to submit it. Right? If I give you some suggested edits, I'd like you to make those changes before you submit it, then submit the form. If it asks who to copy, please copy me so that I get a copy of the final form, such that if the state contacts me about it, I don't go, I don't know what you're talking about. It helps. Oops, sorry, guys. So let's make sure that, it happens, unfortunately, often enough that we need to go over this. So let's make sure that we get all of that stuff, okay? Once you've written up that narrative, filling out the form's a breeze. You literally cut the narrative and you paste it into one box. You fill out a bunch of names and a bunch of form fields, and it's done. When you're writing your narrative, again, think Joe Friday, just the facts. Who, what, and when. Who did what to whom? At what time? In what quarter? What was the score? That kind of stuff. Did the game finish? Right? Were you able to finish the game? Put that in the report. If you have to stop the game, you have to fill out a second report for why the game didn't finish. So the idea is to get the situation under control as quickly as you can, send all the players to their bench, confer about the penalties you're going to assess, have the crew chief report the fouls. You'll probably have to report them more than once. Remember, we're going to have simultaneous fouls here because you're probably not going to be able to get all the sequence right because those melees happen very quickly. You may find that you have dead ball fouls at the end for players leaving the bench. That might make it easier. Right? Those happened after the altercation. So go through it all, process it out as a crew with the players at the benches, talk through it. What was the sequence? If there was sequence and you can figure that out, great. If you can't, you can't. But let's make sure we got the right players and we got them in the box. Remember, only 3 players can serve at once. If you have to stack the box, you stack the box. I did once have a situation where I had 3 players from both teams in the box to end a period. Well, we're going to face off then, aren't we? The teams are even, but nobody has any midfielders to bring a defenseman up. Right? Review that in the rule book. Understand how to do that if that situation arises. Anything you want to add on this, Steve?
No, just fights are no fun. If you have to write a report, write it. Just run it by Dave first. Cite the rule. Make sure when you're on the field, you note the time, all the details, time, number of fraction, the player, get the player's name from the book, get all the information so you can make a complete report.
Thank you. The one thing I did fail to mention is you don't have to assess equal numbers of fouls if there aren't equal numbers of fouls, right? You've got 2 guys involved in an altercation. Everybody on the field is either trying to break it up or stays out of it. 2 guys leave the bench. Well, that sounds like 3 and 1 to me. You don't have to make it 3 and 3. It is what it is, right? Let's just try to be as good of a reporter as you can be. Just getting down as much information as possible. All right, let's move on from that. Mistakes, how to correct problems. All officials will make mistakes. Better officials make fewer mistakes, right? Mistakes can happen because we misapply or misunderstand a rule. Mistakes can happen because we're out of position and we didn't see something. Mistakes can happen due to a lack of focus, right? Literally just didn't see what happened, right? If we learn from our mistakes, we can use it as a positive experience going forward. How we handle our mistakes has a huge impact on our game management. If we have an error, right, let's get together as a crew and correct the mistake as soon as we can, if it's correctable, right? Don't show up your partners. Don't say, dude, what the hell? Let's time for that during post game. Let's fix it as best we can, right? What does that mean? That means owning your mistake. Every one of us who's done this for any length of time has pointed the wrong way, right? Shot out of ball out of bounds. We say white and point black's way, and then we're like realized that we pointed the wrong way. We got to stop and say, it is black or it is white. I pointed the wrong way. Stop. It's going to be white's ball. Don't rush the restart. Right. Teams may have already started substituting based on your pointing the wrong way. Give them a chance to fix it, right? But you have a mistake, own it, admit it. My fault. I messed that up. Coaches coach players who make mistakes. They understand mistakes. Owning a mistake makes it a little, it's harder to yell at somebody who said, I made a mistake, right? It's much harder, right? Smooth sea never made a skillful sailor. So if you only ever sailed on relatively calm seas, you wouldn't be very good. So mistakes are going to happen. And sometimes those mistakes can prevent you from making future mistakes. And that's a good thing. So here's a simple one. It's an oops, right? Trail throws the flag because green's offside. But green has the ball, right? This is a simple mistake. Shouldn't be a flag. The flag's inadvertent, but green is offside. So this is something we can fix. We stop play as soon as we recognize that we threw the flag in error. What do we need to do here? Well, green's offside. We need to enforce the green's offside, give the ball to white, and go the other way. Explain. Easy. But what we do, performance after critical error, right? It's important. How do we handle it? Well, first, like I said, we acknowledge it. Own it to everybody, first with your partners, and then with the coaching staffs, right? My fault. Totally my error. Maybe it was just as simple as an inadvertent whistle. Why'd you blow your whistle? I messed up, coach. It was an inadvertent whistle. I didn't mean to blow the whistle. Shouldn't have blown the whistle. I'm sorry I took away your fast break. The only thing I can do for you is give you the ball. Totally my error. It happens, right? You explain it to the coaches. They're not going to like it. But the fact that you own it makes it a lot harder for them to scream at you, right? Give them the opportunity to substitute, explain what the fix is, and restart. Right? All we can do is get back to playing the game with the fixes that we're allowed to do under the rules. If you're a relatively new official, defer to your crew chief, who will help you figure out the fix. Okay. So let's talk about the makeup of a professional official, right? The 7 C's, right? Competence. You know your rules, you know your mechanics, you need to be in the right spot to make the right call. Communication. It's hard to over communicate. Every time there's a restart, tell the keeper where the ball is. Here it looks like white's trying to play some silly game, so you can't tell who's got the ball. Notice if you're just pointing at it, it's right over here. He's pointing right at number 8. 8's got it. Keeper's not confused. Right? These two guys are 5 yards apart, but it might be difficult to say, to tell who's got the ball if you don't articulate that. Next up, compassion. Coaches are going to come to you with, hey, we watched game film. We saw that they do this, that, and the other thing. I want to protect our guys. I need you to protect our guys. Absolutely. We'll be watching for those hits. We understand what you're asking for. Coach, we understand. We hear you. Sometimes coaches just want to be heard. And just listening for 30 seconds makes problems go away. Being consistent, right? If you call it in the second quarter, It's got to be a foul in the fourth quarter. If you don't call it in the second quarter, you can't call it for the first time in the fourth quarter when you've been letting it go all day, right? We need to be consistent. What your partners are calling at one end of the field, you need to call at the other end of the field the same way. We need to say that's how we're calling the game today. You might not like being that tight, but maybe this game needs to be that tight. Right? Or maybe you don't like being that loose, but this game will take 4 hours if we don't let a little bit of this go here, right? So you have to get a feel for the game, but you have to be consistent at both ends of the field. And then conviction, right? Major call. You don't feel like there were any mistakes made. It's my call. I got it. Right? Sometimes it takes courage to make the right call. Right? Here, Single's running in and wiping out a goal because he's got a crease violation. He's big, no goal, no goal. Right? That's a tough call. But you gotta make it. You want to sell it, you want to come in big, you want to be very, very sure, but the courage of making that call is tough. We had somebody wipe out a potential game-winning goal last year because the team had 11 guys on the field. Got to make the call. Got to make the right call and have the courage to make the right call at the right time. All right, before we get into post-game responsibilities, there's a seventh C, counting, clarity of vision. There, I only presented 6. Did anybody catch that? I only went through 6. But always be counting. We don't want to let teams go offside, let teams who are offside get away with it, right? So always be counting. All right, let's talk about post-game a little bit. The rules still require us to go and confirm the score at the table. That's the crew chief's responsibility to confirm the score at the scorebook. Some guys don't like doing it, but make sure the score in the book is right because they're going to report the scores. You have to report the scores in Arbiter, crew chiefs, when the game's over. So make sure the book matches the scoreboard. Some schools still want you to sign the book. I recommend that you do. If you brought any personal items, make sure you collect those up. Some guys like to bring a small bag or their drinks, their hydration beverages to the game. Collect up whatever you have and leave quickly. Don't stick around. Don't wait around for the handshakes to finish. Get the book signed, get your stuff, get out. Okay. Get to whatever point you guys have decided that you're going to meet after the game, whether it's in the parking lot. Remember, crew chiefs, when you confirm games, to ask where the changing room will be. Our contracts provide that they're supposed to give us a changing room. So don't ask if there's a changing room, ask where is the changing room. And then they'll tell you if you're going to meet back in the locker room, get back in the locker room, have your post game in the locker room. If it's one of the few schools that won't give you a changing room, then meet in the parking lot. You want to go meet at a restaurant afterwards, that's up to you. But get together, discuss unusual plays. Were there any calls that you want back? We want to talk about it. Provide feedback to your partners, right? If you care about your partners at all, you will offer them some feedback. Here's what you did well. Here's what you need to improve on. If your general answer to everyone is great game, see you next time, how are your partners going to get any better? How are you going to get any better if you don't get any feedback from your partners? Right? So if somebody offers you feedback in a post game, accept it in the spirit that it's intended. It's designed to help you get better. It is intended to be constructive. Right? Don't get mad. Say thanks. Process it. See if there's a way to implement their suggestion. Okay. The one thing I did forget about post game, if you had one of those ejection reports that you got to fill out, again, go over it. Talk about what happened. Right? Here's an opportunity. We had this fight. Trail, you did a good job of freezing the benches. And maybe the trail's going to say, well, I only froze the benches after the first guy passed me because I forgot to spin around. So the first guy got by me, but the second and the third did not. but they still left the bench. Okay. Right. That's a mistake you can own. Talk about it. But again, now we understand, because let's face it, almost every one of our games is going to be on NFHS network. Right? You're not supposed to use the video to do your report. But after we submit our report, someone's going to look at either NFHS network, Huddle, Veo, whatever that school is using for their game film. We want to be as accurate as possible. So talk about it post game. Steve, anything you want to add here?
No, yeah, just well, yeah. Be honest with your partner. You have to be try to do it in a positive manner if you have to do corrections or offer them suggestions for things to work on, so they can work on the next game. You should always be trying to work on something when you go into a game, like maybe offsides or communicating with a coach or something like that. So you can offer suggestions to your crew on things to work on. We can all work on getting better. So it's okay to make suggestions.
Cool. All right, that's the end of our slides for this evening.